In a remote corner of the African continent, far from roads, maps, and the modern world's curious eye, there lies a village untouched by the forward march of time. Cradled between cliffs the color of scorched clay and massive baobab trees that seem to touch the heavens, this place has no name written in books. The rooftops are thatched with straw and woven memory, the walls, cracked and sun-washed, still wear the fingerprints of ancestors long returned to the soil. The scent of smoldering firewood clings to the air, and the wind hums with forgotten lullabies. This is not just a village. It is a relic of rhythm, where the past lingers like mist and even silence speaks in tongues. Under a sky locked in celestial battle, sun and moon entwined in a cosmic embrace, the village of Olima held its breath. On this rare and holy night, a child emerged into the world without a cry. No whimper, no wail, just wide, ancient eyes staring into the void, as if she had seen it before. The midwives, women of blood and instinct, stepped back, awed and unsettled. This was no ordinary birth. In the heart of rural Africa, silence in a newborn is an absence, it's a message. And this child, wrapped in the hush of eclipsed shadow, seemed less born than returned. They named her Ajani, and from that moment, nothing in Olima would ever remain the same. Inside a clay-walled hut nestled on the edge of the village, time moved differently. Here, the air smelled of crushed leaves, fermented bark, and bitter roots drying in the rafters. Glass bottles clinked softly in the breeze, and bones hung like wind chimes above the entryway. This was Null's dwelling, Olima's healer, midwife, and silent historian. She spoke in glances and healed with hands calloused by grief. Ajani, the quiet child, was raised in this living archive of African knowledge. She never asked questions, nor offered words, but she listened. To insects tapping against the walls. To the heartbeat of fire. To the stories that hung unsaid between Null's movements. In this part of Africa, silence was not feared. It was holy. By the age of 10, Ajani had disappeared into the forest, not lost, but absorbed. Her bare feet left no trace upon the soft red earth. Her presence was so subtle that even the birds, usually quick to scatter, simply tilted their heads and watched her pass. The monkeys paused their chatter. The leaves held their breath. The entire forest, thick with green and heavy with ancestral breath, bent ever so slightly in her direction, not out of fear, but reverence. Ajani was not merely walking through Africa's wilderness. She was being claimed by it, bone and breath alike. In these sacred woods, where shadows walked beside the living, Ajani became one with the land's pulse. She knelt beneath an ancient canopy, where golden beams of light speared through the treetops like divine fingers. The dust danced in those columns of sun, swirling like spirits caught mid-whisper. Ajani placed her hands upon the earth, palms open, fingers spread. Her eyes closed, but everything inside her woke. She wasn't listening with her ears. She was listening with her bones. The rustle of leaves, the cry of a distant bird, the low hum beneath the soil, all of it passed through her like breath through hollowed wood. In Africa's deep forest, silence is not the absence of sound. It is a language older than words, and Ajani was becoming fluent. Under a canopy of stars, the elders of Olima gathered around the sacred fire. Their robes of woven reds and aged hides shimmered orange in the flickering flame, their eyes dark with memory and caution. Smoke coiled into the heavens like ancestral spirits climbing home. They spoke of seasons and sickness, of harvests and histories. But when the wind died down and the fire crackled just so, they leaned in close and whispered of her, the silent girl. Ajani. She walks like the one before, an old man muttered. The one who danced with shadows. They dared not speak the name. In Africa, names carry weight. To speak one is to summon its story. Each night, Ajani's sleep unfurled like a sacred scroll. In her dreams, she saw a girl cloaked in moonlight, spinning slowly within a circle of black stones. Her arms moved like smoke, her feet tapping out patterns no one else could decipher. Around her, shadows circled, not as enemies, but as witnesses. Then, just as the rhythm swelled into something triumphant, the girl would scream. And everything would go still. These were not dreams. They were remembrances. Ajani was not the first to be called by the stone circle. But perhaps she would be the first to answer fully. She awoke before dawn, drenched in sweat, her small chest heaving. The room was silent save for the rustle of dried herbs overhead. Her skin tingled, her limbs trembled, but not from fear. From recognition. Whatever walked in her dreams was not a figment. It was an inheritance. In Africa's ancient rhythm, dreams are not diversions, they are summons. And Ajani had been summoned. With trembling hands, Null reached to a high shelf and pulled down a gourd wrapped in red twine. Its surface was blackened with ash, and the smell of old fire clung to it. She pressed it into Ajani's palms, her touch heavy with meaning. Take this to the circle, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Her eyes were not afraid. They were tired, with knowing. In this part of Africa, symbols don't come with instructions. They come with truth. Past sleeping huts and the soft eyes of goats watching in silence, Ajani made her way to the edge of the village. The gourd pulsed with warmth in her hand. The moon carved silver trails across her path. She did not run. She did not hesitate. In African stories, journeys don't begin with steps. They begin with remembering. And Ajani remembered. The circle waited, obsidian stones arranged in perfect silence, each slab humming with the weight of memory. Moonlight bled across their glossy surfaces like liquid silver, illuminating the place where history once whispered and was silenced. As Ajani stepped barefoot into the ring, the air tightened like a held breath. The soil beneath her vibrated, not shaking, but pulsing, alive with something ancient. The gourd in her hand grew warm, as if awakened. In rural Africa, sacred places are not named, they are felt. And this one welcomed her with reverent anticipation, not as a stranger, but as a returning flame. Her body did not move by will but by instinct. Something within her, older than bone, older than name, stirred and stretched through her limbs. Her arms carved arcs in the air, her feet stamped ancient rhythms into the soil. From the edge of the circle, the shadows began to rise. Not as ghosts, but as echoes, smoke-shaped ancestors without faces, drawn to the call of a dance left unfinished. They didn't haunt. They listened. They followed. In this African night, movement was memory and motion, and Ajani was its drumbeat. From the coiling shadow emerged a figure both soft and blinding, cow. Her body shimmered like heat over a burial mound. Her eyes glowed not with vengeance, but with memory denied. She did not speak at first. She watched. Then, her voice, a rustle of wind through dry grass, whispered, "You dance what I could not finish." Ajani, still moving, replied without falter, "Then I will remember for you." In the hidden corners of Africa, some spirits rise not to curse, but to complete. They gathered in ones and twos, drawn by the pulsing sound in the air, not music, but memory. The mothers clutched their children. Elders leaned heavily on carved sticks. Young men whispered names that had not been spoken in decades. Before them, in the circle of black stones, Ajani danced wrapped in shadow and truth. Her steps were prophecy. Her movement was testimony. In this African village, the line between present and past had blurred, and the watchers understood, this was no performance. This was reckoning. Wrapped in ceremonial red, with a coil of rope in one hand and fury in the other, Chief Lumo approached the circle's edge. His jaw clenched, eyes hard, not with wisdom, but with fear disguised as power. The rope in his hand was not for binding, it was for silencing. He had buried the truth once before. Now, he would try again. But Africa, in her quiet wrath, does not easily forget those who silence memory. The moment Lumo's foot touched sacred soil, the earth roared. A deep crack tore across the ground. From the darkness surged vines, thick, sinewy, alive. They coiled around his legs like ancestral judgment, pulling him down with patient fury. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed. The circle did not echo. It absorbed. In this African land, the ground is not just witness. It is verdict. Amid the chaos and breathless awe, Ajani stood, soaked in sweat, arms raised to the stars. Her voice, though quiet, carried the weight of mountains. "Say her name," she cried. "Say what you buried." For a heartbeat, all was still. Then, from the crowd, one voice, trembling and hoarse, answered, "Cow." Then another. Then more. In the heart of Africa, silence cracked open, and truth poured out like rain. With each spoken cow, the air grew warmer, lighter. The spirit at the center of the circle began to change, her edges softened, her sorrow eased. Her eyes shimmered with a gratitude too deep for words. "You've remembered me," she whispered, her voice a lullaby in the wind. In Africa, justice need not arrive with fire. Sometimes it comes with voice, and that is enough. From the bruised sky above Olima, rain began to fall. Not a storm, but a baptism. Gentle at first, like the tears of ancestors watching from the beyond. Then stronger, soaking the village in forgiveness. Children squealed in joy, arms outstretched. Elders wept openly, their hearts finally unburdened. The land, cracked and forgotten, drank deeply. In rural Africa, rain is not weather. It is redemption. Through the wet earth and whispering villagers, Ajani walked slowly, cows drum across her back like a relic reborn. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She simply walked, and the people moved. Not out of fear, but reverence. No one told them to bow. Their bones did. In her silence was thunder. In her stride, prophecy. The shadows did not vanish. They returned. Into bark. Into stone. Into soil. Not banished, fulfilled. Their rhythm complete, their memory honored, they drifted back to the places they had always belonged. In this African realm, the dead do not disappear. They rest. And the living carry their names forward. Guided by a sense deeper than thought, Ajani found herself at the mouth of a moss-draped cave. Inside, the air was thick with breath from centuries past. Carvings lined the walls, spirals, suns, rivers, eyes, telling the story of Africa before it had names. She stepped into the dark not with fear, but with reverence. This was not a hiding place. It was a beginning wrapped in stone. She laid the drum at the center of the cave. As her fingers left its skin, the walls pulsed with sound. Voices, soft, layered, harmonic, rose like mist. They did not speak in words. They sang in memory. In this sacred African space, stories were not told. They were awakened. Back in Olima, the bone tree, once a haunting monument of loss, began to change. Petals emerged like snow falling in reverse. White, soft, miraculous. Gasps rippled through the village. Where once bones hung heavy with silence, now flowers bloomed with forgiveness. The tree had become both grave and garden. In the heart of Africa, beauty often grows where memory is finally allowed to breathe. At night, children gathered around Ajani like stars around a moon. No books. No scrolls. Only her voice, the drum, and the crackling fire. She spoke not as a queen nor priestess, but as a vessel. She told them of Cow, of the girl who danced, of the silence that tried to swallow her, and the truth that set her free. The children leaned in, not with fear, but with wonder. In this African night, stories were not told to pass time. They were told to shape it.